crystal gems will always save the day. And if you think we can't, we'll always find a way. That's why the people are...
It's another episode of the Boob Tube Boys, and it's time to change things up a bit and go into an animated direction where we discuss Steven Universe, a cartoon show. The first time that we've done that. Originally aired in 2013 on the Cartoon Network, and it involves magical gems. There are 3 superheroes in this show that we'll be discussing. That's ironic because we have 3 superheroes here right now. Obviously, I'm the first superhero. I'll take the lead on this since I'm hosting. I'm Spencer Hendricks. We've also got a couple other people. Let's see. Brian Vaughn, hello.
Hi, I'm a shapeshifter. I'm here to talk about the show Steven Universe, which I think is, according to the emails I've been getting, what we're all here to do.
Yeah, that's the main idea. We'll see what else happens over the course of the night. I don't know. So, are you pretty pumped about this? What are you gonna talk about?
I'm fired up. I'm going to talk about art style. I'm going to talk about superpowers. I'm going to be talking about people's cool dads. There's a lot of stuff.
I'm excited about this. This is good. And we've also got Van Lee. Van, how are you?
I am reading your mind as we speak.
Oh,
That's my
bet you are. I bet you are.
Hold on.
Huh?
It's not water chestnuts. I know you're not thinking of that.
You've eliminated
You're
one
wrong.
option.
That's all you think about.
No, this is actually this is funny because we just did a bonus Patreon episode where we all figured out our superpowers, and we're never going to let this go. I think we're going to keep bringing this up throughout the course of the show. It's just going to be an inside joke forever.
Yeah, so if you want to hear that, you just go subscribe to the Patreon.
I mean,
Patreon.com/Bootu Inc. B-O-T-U.
There's some pretty affordable options there. I think you can all spare $2 a month. Or if not, just tell people about it.
Especially to hear us elaborate on our superpowers, for God's sake.
We all like cheetahs, as it turns out. I didn't know that. But anyway, let's get into it. Steven Universe. It's apparently kind of a big deal. I didn't really realize how critically acclaimed it was when I picked it, but it ran on, like I said, Cartoon Network by Rebecca Sugar was the creator for 5 seasons. It did have an epilogue season, but it's not considered part of it. So
did they have a movie too?
They did.
Okay,
yeah.
I saw like a file when I was trying to download
yes,
stuff.
Yeah, they did quite a bit after those 5 seasons, and the 5th season ended in 2019. Total of 160 episodes.
So this is that recent.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
This is
really
very
new
contemporary.
show.
Yeah.
Okay.
It started in 2013, so that's that takes it back a little bit, but we had what's the closest we got? When did House end?
House ended like 2009, so
yeah,
it's still been 12 years.
Yeah,
or something
like a few years difference between the end of that and the start of this one. So this is the most contemporary show we've gotten. I just
Columbo actually ran until 2021, so there is that.
Peter Falk, they
Just one
reanimated
more thing. I'm a little
him.
bit of a
It's
ghost
just his
now.
bones the whole time.
Yeah, this is definitely the most contemporary by a pretty large margin. And it
Large Margin is actually what Large Marge was doing in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I was trying to throw everyone off, but I was annoyed that you guys both had heard about this, and you both said that you'd heard good things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought it was supposed to be like, and it is a different tone. You have to admit that at least. Like maybe it's not like something that you can totally make fun of, but we got into our first animated series, and it's something that can apply to kids. It doesn't just apply to kids, but it can.
Well, it's very clear to me, and I'll be talking about another show throughout this because I think its predecessor, which really gave it the footing of it, which is Adventure Time.
Yes.
And I loved Adventure Time.
Which
I thought
Rebecca
it was great.
Sugar worked on.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. So you can feel it. You get the vibe.
And I didn't really watch much Adventure Time. I know about it. I know it's well regarded, but...
Yeah, I've seen about, I would say, a dozen episodes of Adventure Time, most of them with you, Van.
Mm-hmm. And my ex-girlfriend who loved it, so I've seen a lot.
And her while eating food, and it was a pleasant experience.
Do you guys enjoy that show?
It's a nice show.
Yes. Yeah. Now, and this show will be similar in that I doubt I'll watch it on my own, but I have no qualms
Understandable,
with it.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
It's breezy. It's a very easy thing to watch. There's a lot to like. The episodes have 10-minute run times,
which is easy to digest.
Yeah, you blink and they're over.
Yeah, it's something very different. I that's mostly what I was going for here. Is I just wanted to kind of switch it up a bit.
Yeah, you went from 21 Jump Street.
Come on.
all the way over.
I already apologized and said I didn't know what we were getting into with 21 Jump Street.
You didn't know what you were getting into with this either.
Well, no,
You
I
lucked
didn't.
out on this
I
one.
didn't. Yeah,
What if this
honestly,
were as drastic and...
I'm sorry that I am taking chances. I'm not a mind reader like
like
you.
it.
I don't know what everyone's thinking, and I'm
Fair
just
point.
trying to. I'm just trying to be weird.
I like flying around both poles. I'm also going to get this out of the way up top. If
Good.
you, as a listener, hear any booms and bangs and baps and whomps, we're recording this 4th of July weekend, so people are setting off all sorts of artillery.
Will Smith is out there fighting aliens right outside of the house.
And he's like kicking them after they're already dead and yelling at them.
Wait, didn't they make a second one of those?
Yeah.
What? Did either of you see that?
Yeah,
No.
Judd Hirsch is the hero in
God,
this
no.
one.
The
I
hero?
wish that
Oh.
was true. I
Well,
don't
Randy
even-
Quaid was the hero
Yeah.
in the first one, so it's not that out of the ordinary.
But yeah, they did make a second one,
Okay.
like 5 years ago or so.
I have to say too, if there's a war going on out there, where are the gems when you need them? Because that's what the
Yeah.
gems do. That's the premise of the show. The gems are actually magical creatures. They're relatively aloof, but they protect the Earth. And this is the fictional city, Beach City. And there are 3 magical gems who live with Steven, who is the main title character, of course. They all share a house. The gems are here to keep humanity safe from we don't know what eventually. I'm going to get into what they really do as we discuss the episodes. I don't want to spoil anything on the outset. And I don't want to spoil anything that happens beyond what we watch because we are only setting the foundations in the 4 episodes we're going to cover.
It was pretty clear that I don't know how you picked these episodes, you'll tell us, but it was clear that these had a narrative that they were pushing towards. And
this is just the beginning of it.
correct.
There's
yes.
some elements of that. I mean, we'll be getting into this that I really like
Yeah.
as far as what they're getting at.
Oh,
Yes.
let me ask this. So this is one of those Cartoon Network shows where season 1 has 148
That is so
episodes.
weird, yeah.
How many
50.
total were there?
There
You
were
know?
150 total. I think it went to, depending on whether you count the pilot, I think it was 53 in the first
Okay.
season.
Most
But-
of the seasons are like 20-something
Right.
episodes.
So
Okay.
this first season that we covered spanned 2 years, from
Oh,
2013 to 2015. So I don't know why they did that.
I wonder if they were not even thinking of it in terms of seasons then and then got
It's such
a
an
longer
ambitious
order.
project. The overall narrative that I've actually looked into, they're telling a huge story here that we're only getting the very beginning of.
Which is what Adventure Time did.
Yeah.
Is it told this huge
that's good to
story.
know. I
It
didn't
is
know
also
that.
a staple in like anime TV, I
Yeah.
know.
That's cool. But it's really clear that Rebecca Sugar's creation here is very ambitious. It's doing a lot. There's a lot of kind of subliminal messages too, that something means more than it seems like it does on the surface. So that's where that adult element comes in, although there's certainly the child entertainment qualities as well. So I was mostly hoping those would jump out, since I picked some different, a little more dramatic tones in my last 2. I was hoping we could get some childlike elements in this, but there is the adult quality too. So
Well, there are lots of childlike elements in 21 Jump Street, like children that need to
Not
go
in-
to prison for their crimes.
And die.
yeah, not in an uplifting fashion at all, but that's okay. So a little bit about Rebecca Sugar. I don't know if you guys looked her up at all,
Mm-mm.
but she's considered the first woman to independently create a series for the Cartoon Network.
That's pretty
Wow.
sweet.
Because sugar.
See what I did there?
yeah.
Huh?
I do. I like that.
In addition to being the first woman to independently create the Cartoon Network series here, is openly bisexual and non-binary, and that's a huge plus for the.
In and
She's a huge like booster for the LGBTQ plus.
Like 7.5
Community.
foot tall. So big.
Yeah, she's larger than life. So she's to be commended for that. She's accomplished. She's quite a groundbreaker in that sense.
Well, I think that's great you said that, and it makes a little bit of sense too, because as we get into the later episodes, there are a couple of instances
see that.
where I went,
Yeah.
this is a cartoon, and they did that. Awesome.
It's very inclusive.
Yeah,
Which
very inclusive
she
and
did that on
very
purpose, yeah.
Yeah, giving you a wider array of what roles certain characters can have.
Sure.
Also.
And as we talked about earlier, she was previously associated with Adventure Time. She was nominated for 7 Primetime Emmy Awards over the course of this.
Wow.
So yeah, she's
did
very.
she beat Ellen, or did Ellen just win them all?
We'll have to look into that separately.
Well, it's primetime
'Cause we care
so they
so much.
probably go to Jimmy Fallon or something.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of we've got to laud everyone around this entire project here. They did a great job, and there were a lot of kind of just new areas being tapped into here that hadn't been before. So now we can get into the cast, which of course the main character Steven is voiced by Zach Callison. I did not make any notes on him because he hasn't really done much else, although he did a great job as Steven, and I'm sure he's got a great career ahead of him. I didn't put anything else down for him. Garnet is, I don't know if you guys know her. I have not heard of her, but
I didn't recognize anyone in this cast, but it's a very diverse cast, which is awesome.
Estelle, a British singer, songwriter, rapper, and she has many cameo appearances in various films. Have you ever heard of Estelle?
No.
I haven't either. Yeah, I guess she's well known in her industry, and later on we'll get to hear her rapping, and it was pretty enjoyable. So then there's Amethyst, which I'm gonna fuck her name up, so I'm just gonna run right through that. Michaela Dietz. She's Korean-born, various voice acting roles. She was in a Barney and Friends thing, and she also
that's the dream.
She also participated in a role in Fallout 76, so she does the video game industry too.
Interesting.
Yeah,
like
it is.
voice acting, or
and that's
well, I guess that's what she'd be doing here.
Yeah,
no, she just plays the
That's
game
not her
and they put it
physical
on
body in
IMDb.
Steven Universe either, I guess.
I think most of these are largely voice acting people, but
I'll be doing a lot of this, by the way. Which one is Amethyst? Is that the squat one? The little one? Okay.
Yes, she's the crass one.
What's the pale, skinny one?
That's what we're talking about right now. That's Pearl.
Pearl. I like Pearl.
She's uptight. That is Dee Dee Magno Hall, I believe. She was born to Filipino parents. She was actually in the Mickey Mouse Club as a child and was in a Disney pop band that they formed in the early 90s called The Party.
There are a lot of people came from that scenario and became famous.
It was big, yeah.
The Disney Kids Club,
but The Party?
The Party was the band, yeah.
That sounds like when we joke about when little kids come up with names for teams, like, we want to be the pizzas.
Or how if they name a thing, like, and it's a stuffed tiger, they call it, like, Tigery.
Yes.
Or something.
So that's Pearl, who Van likes. She's pale, thin, uptight, and
it's pretty hot.
Honestly, that was the one I was always most drawn to as well.
Like Pearl.
Personality-wise, no, I like Garnet best. Also,
yeah, Garnet
I do like Garnet,
rules.
too.
Garnet.
Amethyst
Also,
is
I
so
can get around
fucking
the three-eye thing.
We'll talk about what that means. And then, of course, we've got Greg. I can't wait to talk about Greg.
Greg
guys.
is great.
Yes, he's voiced by Tom Sharpling, who is actually a pretty well accomplished.
I know his name.
Yeah.
I
What else
haven't
has
heard
he
of
been
it.
in? Do you know?
Yes, he's actually he's a comedian, TV writer. He actually works on the show Monk, which he writes for, which I didn't know. And he's directed a bunch of music videos for a bunch of different bands, like the New Pornographers
Oh.
and
and The Party.
I don't think he did that. Ted Leo and other
Oh,
things. He had a
yeah.
bunch. He's done
I
a
love
lot
Ted
of stuff
Leo.
like that. So he's a creative guy, and we get to hear a song from him later too. So he definitely is. He's got his thumbprints all over this thing, and it's interesting.
I have a personal interest in this song that we're going to hear later.
Because it's your name.
It is my
It's
name.
your name. And Brian used to drive one, so
Yeah,
you
that's
missed,
true.
You missed your chance on
Two
writing
different
this song.
times.
You missed your chance. You should have written the song.
He looks
first.
like Carl from Aqua Teen, but wholesome.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's in a little better shape.
Yeah, a little bit.
Hard
Yeah.
to be in worse shape than
He's
Carl.
done some stuff.
He's
He
not
as
has
much
a
hair.
past.
He's not as hairy as Carl, yeah. I mean, his head, but
The
not
body.
the rest of him, no. So, before we get into the episodes, which again, that's going to take no time at all, we're going to do 2 on this because we had to. They're 10 minutes long. I want to tell you guys a little bit of context, and some of it we're gonna elaborate on once it comes up in the plot line. But just so, I don't know how much, did you guys research at all, the background of the plot, where it goes? Do you guys know how
No.
it ends?
Nope.
No.
Good. Because I don't even want to talk about that. This is the,
No.
this is the setup.
Okay.
This is the setup. We know what happened, what's
This-
going to happen, and we'll leave the rest for everyone else.
Am I wrong in that this is now House has some elements of it? Some of the other shows we've covered have some elements of like a plot that's continual.
It's episodic,
not
but there are
self-contained.
bits.
Yes,
But this
is the first
this is
one.
the most like
So we can't cover the
plot-driven
entire
show that actually goes somewhere that we've covered.
Is this plot that we're going to focus on in these 4 episodes, is that the overarching plot for the series?
It sets it all up.
Okay.
It sets it all up. So we can't possibly cover the entire thing, and we'll do other shows like this in the future, and we'll just have to keep this in mind. You know, we can't discuss the entirety of the show and the direction it goes. We just have to kind of give you the
No,
broad
and I don't
strokes.
even feel like we should
No.
with a show where there's like if we were talking about The Sopranos, you're not going to be like, here's how it ends.
No.
You know, but if you're talking about King of Queens, who gives a shit?
No, it's different.
Yeah, it's a different
It's not
kind
an
of show.
ongoing narrative, and this one is. So this is the first one we've done like that. So yeah, that was my thought. There is we're just doing the setup episodes. We'll kind of show you what they're pointing toward. We won't talk about the ends because I don't know. None of us know. The general concept here is that we alluded to this earlier. The Jims are the main characters, them and Steven, who is a half Jim himself.
He's a fat little boy.
His mom is the Jim.
His mom is a Jim, and Greg is the father. Of course, Greg is a human. Rose Quartz is the mother. She was a Jim. So Steven is the first, and I believe only in the show. I don't know. He's the only half. He's the hybrid. He's the Jim and human.
Half Jim, half Muggle.
No. The mother died, I'm assuming, right?
She gave up her
It's not
physical
clear,
form.
but yes, to give birth to Steven, she could not stay in existence.
Okay.
The show may address this later, but we don't know. It's just that she's not around.
Sure.
She's not around because she cared more about giving birth to Steven.
Yeah, that's all I caught in any of the episodes was that she, to save Steven, had to give up her physical form, which could mean she turned into a waffle. I have no idea.
We don't know, and I'm sure they addressed that because, again, this is a very ambitious storyline, and I know that everything they did in these episodes was specifically setting up something in the future. It was very subtle, but everything was a foreshadow. So, like, it's supposed to be meaningful, but we don't know, and
At least it's not a 5 shadow.
we're gonna try to find out as much as we can without delving too deep into what happens in the show eventually. But Jims are in human form. Their bodies are made of light, but they do have mass. Like, you can't just walk through them. So the gemstone that they possess is their brain. If you hurt them physically, they can regenerate as long as you don't damage the gemstone itself too much.
You could blow an arm off.
Yes, they'll be fine.
Which will happen multiple times in the show. Gory.
They regenerate. They're fine.
Blood.
If you break the gemstone, they actually do die, but otherwise they can regenerate. Their human forms are not the same. They're stronger than humans. They're magical. They're powerful people.
Does each one have like a specific power, like
They
an
seem
X-Man
to,
might?
yeah.
Okay.
They all seem to kind of do a different thing, and I'll get into that. They also, we didn't see too much of this, but they can encase objects into a safety bubble and put it back in like storage if they want to remove something contaminated from the world, because they are here to protect the Earth.
Is that what they do with the other gyms then?
Yes.
Okay.
And yes, and
We'll get
some
to that,
some
of course.
gems are corrupted, and they are trying to save Earth from that. They are stationed at Earth. Most gems are not. We will learn where most gems come from later.
Gymland,
So,
which is where your mom's husband came from.
Yes,
too.
Gemland. Yeah.
a few quick other notes, and then we'll jump into these. Gems confuse. We see this happening, and it's a huge plot point. So, what happens is they combine their elements. It's a stronger form together. Might be unstable depending on their personalities and how well they know each other. So you don't know for sure that a fusion is actually going to work, but in theory, it makes them stronger.
And they both have to consent,
Yes,
as we find later.
Yes, and it's just that if they're not getting along well, it won't work. There's
Okay.
some failed fusions that happen over the course of the show.
I've had some failed fusions along the way.
That old Ford you
There
used
is
to drive.
definitely
Yeah.
a metaphor
Oh.
in the fusion process, but it's probably getting a little dark, so we won't talk about that. But there's a few that happen regularly throughout the show. One is called Opal. That's when amethyst and pearl fuse. And then there's, I don't know how to say these, sardonyx, which is garnet and pearl. And then there's sugilite, which is amethyst and garnet. So they can all individually fuse with each other.
And they can pull apart at
Yes.
will?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so, yeah. And then this is kind of a bit of a spoiler here, but we won't end up getting into much of Connie. Connie's a very important human friend of Steven's, and Steven, of course, is only half human. They are very close, and at some point, because of Steven's partial gem aspect, he can also fuse with just a total human.
Mm.
And he and Connie
Oh.
have a fusion that's called Stevani. Just a very tall
Oh, I know.
woman.
I saw it. It almost
really?
looks like, I just saw a picture of it. It looks like she, as you said, woman, looks like Steven, just bigger and thinner.
And girly.
Yeah.
yeah. That I don't think that happens much, but
Okay.
it accidentally happens. A lot of fusions happens accidentally the first time with gems, it seems like, but that's the important thing there is to understand that fusion is an aspect of gem life. So a couple other things.
Hashtag gym life.
Couple other things.
I'm getting swole,
I really-
guys.
I really hope one of you guys puts that onto Twitter after these launch. Someone do that with the hashtag GemLife. So there was a war that you don't hear about in these episodes. That's the background story. Most gems come from Homeworld. They don't live on Earth. That's what they're.
It's
That's
called
what
Homeworld.
their planet's called.
Boy, they
Homeworld.
really thought a lot about
And that's
that one.
before Robert Baratheon stormed Homeworld.
The
Yeah, of
entire
course.
thing about Earth was they sent gems there just to get the gems, to harvest it and to make more gems. Like Earth was just a,
okay.
it's just a toy for them. They don't care. They don't care about humans. They just want the gems.
Kinda like
Jesus
humans
Christ,
don't.
Spencer, they're minerals.
They want to create more gems, and they're harvesting Earth for all it's worth. The humans are just a byproduct. So Rose, Steven's mom, initially was sent to Earth just to oversee the colony, is how they looked at it. She took it seriously. She cared about humans and decided that she cared about Earth more than Homeworld. She wanted to protect Earth from the gems.
She took one look at Carl Jr. and was like, oh man, these guys are awesome.
She
I
did
gotta
fall
hit
in love
that.
with Greg, and that's how Steven was born. But yeah, she decided that she wanted to save Earth and protect against Homeworld, so there was a war. Homeworld retaliated with a beam meant to destroy all gems. It didn't work. It only corrupted them instead. So it turned them into evil gems. Every gem on Earth is evil, which is what the good gems that we're talking about are trying to fix.
Right.
They're trying to go out and find them, put them in their bubble, and protect, save them in a storage room in the house. So
Like
they're
a
trying
prison
to
industrial complex type of deal.
they're trying to remove the corrupted gems from the world. The reason this group is not corrupted, is because Rose had a special power, a shield, which you see that Steven has later. He inherited that from her. That's the general principle of why these people are here, why they're on Earth, why they take things so seriously, and why they're guardians of Steven, so to speak. After Rose presumably died giving birth to him, we don't really know.
And are they this small group, as far as
It's the only ones that Rose was able
gems
to
on
save
Earth?
with her shield.
Oh,
The rest
okay.
of the gems are now corrupt on Earth. And again, that's not where most of them are anyway.
Yeah.
They're mostly on their homeworld. So
But Homeworld seems like a shitty place.
it's mean. It's
Yeah.
mean. And that's what happens in the last episode we talk about.
So
is-
gems are naturally malicious.
We'll figure that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as a person from Missouri, I would like to say that Homeworld really is mean.
Yeah.
That's a truism.
that's the general idea is we've got some nice gems here, but they're not all nice. And
Some of the gyms vote for Trump.
this is this is why this unlikely grouping of people live together in a house in Beach City. So that
Beach City, bringing the
I
heat.
know that was convoluted, but we had to do that because now we can actually get into the synopsis of these episodes and try to do our best to
Yeah.
kind of tell you what's going on with these characters. So the first one we're going to do here, it's a 10-minute episode, it won't take long, is the episode 2, Laser Light Cannon. The official...
Which I want one of.
That sounds awesome. The official synopsis is a magical comet hurtles toward Beach City, and Steven must dig through his father's collection. That's Greg. Of old junk and the past to find the weapon that can save the town.
And boy, does he ever.
So we start this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed Beach City's landscape as much as I did.
Yeah.
We start at Beach City Walk Fries. There's only a few places. This is a very small town, and I love little self-contained towns and fake universes like this. Not to overuse universe, but there's only a few shops, a few residents, and the cast is very small. When this first episode we're going to talk about only has the Jim, Steven, and his dad in it, minus Mr. Fryman, who was in this scene.
Yeah.
Because Amethyst and Steven want bits.
There's a
So do
reason
I.
Steven's a fat little boy. And he's
He
going
is
for
a
these
round
bits.
little guy.
Yeah.
What are fry bits?
I'm assuming it's. I would think of what's that restaurant? Long John Silver's. They have those
Oh,
just crispy chunks.
I know what you're
Like a
talking
hush
about.
That's what
puppy?
I think it would be. Not hush puppies,
No,
but it's
is
the
it
remnants.
is it
Oh,
the
yeah.
I thought that was the chicken.
Like
Is that- I don't know.
battered remnants.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It tastes just like oil. That's all
Yeah,
it tastes
it's
like.
hard oil. It's some sort of I get the impression because this is kind of an ocean front, like
Right.
an Atlantic City junk food
Yes.
stand,
Yeah.
carnival type food.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I found out that apparently this is based on the Virginia beaches that Rebecca Sugar grew up in as a child.
okay.
So it's kind of that. It's meant to be that
Okay.
geographically speaking. But yes, they're on some sort of, most of it's an ocean and then a bunch of stores lining the beach. So they're at this fry place. They want fries. Amethyst is just as eager to eat as Steven, although I believe at some point you learn that the gems don't even need to eat, so she's just doing it because she likes the process, like she likes the taste.
She likes the bits.
She doesn't care about it's not
I'm
sustenance.
kind of bummed out by this, and this is a question that people ask, like one of those philosophical questions of like, if you could choose not to have to eat, would you? And it's like, I guess I would, but I also
still eat.
I love eating.
Yeah.
That's what Amethyst does.
Yeah, I
and,
get
and
it.
that's Amethyst. She's lazy, she's sloppy, she's
Cool.
She's a lot more informal than the other gems. So they're chomping on their bits, chomping at the bit. And they're walking around the city, and they're talking about how it's such a nice time of day, the sun's setting, and Steven casually says, "Yeah, it's that time of day where you can see the second sun setting in the sky." And they realize there's a second sun up there. That's not normal. Not even in Beach City.
No.
It's not even on. It's not Tatooine, so of course it's not normal.
That's the only place that's normal.
That's a concern, and they need to let the other gems know. They look through a telescope, they find a red eye on it. There's something not natural about the second sun.
It's Cillian Murphy.
And it's a danger to Beach City. Pearl, who is always worried, she's always stressed. She says it's going to crash into the city. We have to do something about this. So Garnet is, as always, the most useful of the three, and she's saying there's only one thing we can get to destroy the second sun. This is like a third of the episode we just covered right there.
And they're
The
like, what
third
is it?
sun.
Well, usually Garnet's like, check the title of the episode. You'll know what it is.
Laser light cannon. What it is? Yes.
Garnet's
They,
so take charge. I like
love
that about
Garnet. I love Garnet. Yeah, so she's saying we got to get that laser light cannon. The only place that it could be is with Steven's dad because it belonged to Rose.
I love Steven's dad.
Okay, I'm glad you do because it's time to meet him. Garnet's sure that if anyone knows what happened to it since Rose is gone, gave birth to Steven and died or something, that Greg would know.
But for
Greg.
some reason, they act like Greg might be like slovenly and
Why
not
would they do that?
organized.
What do we think about Greg when we first meet him? Because Steven goes to find his dad, and of course he lives in a van and runs a car wash, and when he greets him, he sets off Greg's van alarm, and Greg
Dan,
comes
your
out.
alarm went off.
Oh no! It's
Greg-
so noisy.
So Greg comes out with his waffle iron because the van alarm was set off, and realizes it's Steven, who he's happy to see. However, it's kind of a strange thing because this is a small town. They live pretty close together. That's his biological dad. I'm kind of wondering what you guys thought of their relationship at this point, and just like what about Greg at this
So
point?
this is the second episode of the whole series, and
Yes.
I assume this is kind of like maybe they're not as close as they would like to be because there are a couple of comments Greg makes about being like, oh, I'm not supposed to mess with anything magic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he knows he's just a simple human, but he's very good-natured about it and clearly loves Steven. So I don't know if perhaps Steven's adventuring has driven them apart a little bit, and Greg understands his role from his relationship with Rose, was it?
Yeah.
Steven's mother?
Yes.
And maybe that kind of factors into it. I'm
It
not
almost
sure.
it felt like perhaps obviously we didn't know the whole picture starting right here, or perhaps we just didn't at all.
Yeah.
But it almost feels like Greg might not have even known he existed until he met him later, and they met up, and they're going to form a relationship.
There's something there.
like that.
Yeah, there's some sort of previous...
They clearly don't know each other
tension.
all that well, and
Yeah,
I think
it
that's
is.
because Steven's off with the gyms or
And
whatever.
I
it may be.
guess we're supposed to think, oh, this guy doesn't have anything together just because he lives in a van.
You sound
and
a little defensive.
What has his name on the van?
his name's on the van.
He
and
does have his own business. He has the car
wears
wash.
Yeah,
an
what
A
is this?
shirt and cut off jean shorts, and he has sweet long hair and a beard. I mean,
I kept waiting for him to come up and be like, "Yeah, meet man. What are we doing tonight?"
yeah, he has a little bit of a Carl vibe. He has an awesome tan line. But unlike Carl from Aqua Teen, another Cartoon Network show with a man in a white A shirt, Greg is very nice.
He's
and,
very nice.
and accommodating, and he's just
Sunburnt.
He's friendly. He's kind of funny. He's got a good sense of. You can really see what Rose saw. in
Good
Greg.
dude. Yeah.
I knew that you would like Greg. I wasn't as sure about Van. Did you like Greg?
Yeah,
You did.
I
absolutely.
would
There's,
love
it's hard
to hang
not
out
to.
with Greg.
It's hard not to.
I don't know about that.
I think I would hang out with him. I think
Once I
he
would.
could probably
Once.
make me some ham and beans on his stovetop, and then we could talk about like Neil Young or
Rockin',
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, okay, hold on. They mentioned this car wash thing.
Yeah.
When I think of a car wash, I think of a thing you drive into and it washes your car, or you get out and use the hose. Is it just him with a mop and bucket?
It's a bunch
What
of
is-
women in bikinis.
Okay, awesome
and they
job,
wash
Greg.
the cars, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm really not sure about that. I don't know that they really elaborate on that. I just know that he has the business. It's obviously not successful because
No.
Steven's like, didn't you see the second son? And he's like, I don't know, it was a slow day at the car wash. He's been asleep in his van forever.
Yeah, he's fucking working his ass off just so he can afford to live in a van. It's not all fun and games at Ocean City.
So what we
Is
learned
that
here.
the Beach City?
Beach City.
Yeah.
Beach City.
Ocean City is real.
Yeah, that's probably why I said that.
That's fine. We can
And
call
you know what
either.
it is? It's in New
interchangeable.
Jersey.
While we learn that, Greg has no idea what's going on, they show in the background Garnet's just throwing Amethyst into this second sun
And she's just
over and
splat.
over again. Thinking
I liked that.
because Amethyst she's meaty. They think maybe she can hurt it, and she's not deterred by the fact that it's not working.
She's
like,
tossed me
throw
again.
me again.
I
Yeah,
think I'm making a dent.
So that's happening in the background while Steven tells Greg about the light cannon. And Greg says, like you guys alluded to, I'm not supposed to do magical stuff, but if it's anywhere, it's in the storage unit I have. Oh man, the storage unit.
Again, I would hang out with Greg in the storage unit. That
There's some cool
sounds
stuff
Why
in
doesn't he
there.
live in the storage unit over the van? I would
You
think that
can't.
would
It's
be
not legal.
They wouldn't know.
Oh, they'd know.
Probably gets really
They'd know.
hot, too.
That's apparently a big thing for storage units is they police for that.
Try to. Yeah,
One of the
I
big
know they all
things-
have security.
Mhm.
One of the big things in America is we like to make sure people know that they're not allowed to be anywhere.
Yes.
But you can live in your car.
Or
I don't
van.
know if they even technically allow that.
I mean, you can.
Them.
You can. I'm sure they would ask you every day, like, why you're doing
Sir,
it. but-
why aren't you working at fast food today?
So Steven is in the storage unit with some kind of strapped-on flashlight in his head. A headlamp is what I put, but I think that's being generous. He's
He
exploring
sort
in
of
there.
makes it.
Yeah, it's a custom headlamp. He finds copies of old CDs, a lot of other junk.
Yeah, and they're Greg CDs from when he
Yes.
was a musician.
We will soon be discussing that because Greg's music career is what drew Rose in the first place.
Oh,
You can see
yeah.
why.
That is how they got together. And
He had a
so,
fire in his belly back then, guys. He was going to make something of himself.
good for you, Mr. Universe. That's what his company's called, by the way. I think Mr.
Yeah,
Universe.
Greg Universe's van company.
So here's a line that comes up often in the show because Steven's looking and accidentally steps on a picture of Greg and Rose, and he breaks it and he says, "I think I broke a picture." And we get the line that Greg says, which is basically just don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Everything works out, and it is.
If every pork chop were perfect, we wouldn't have hot dogs.
I don't know that correlates, Greg.
I've been wanting to talk about this though. I would prefer a hot dog over a pork chop.
Agreed.
I would
100% agree.
I would prefer a pork chop.
Okay.
But I would like a braised pork chop. But I love hot dogs too, even though they're made of feet.
Something about pork chops I just don't care for.
What about that dog pork chop on Doug?
Pretty great.
Pretty cool dog.
He probably bit Mr. Dink at some point because he deserved it.
Yeah, everyone gives hot dogs a lot of shit for being made of weird ingredients, but I guess I wonder, is Greg saying if you fuck up a pork chop, you can just turn it into a hot dog? I don't get it.
I'm thinking maybe like if you're at the butcher or whatever and you're chopping up these pork loins or whatever and you go, oh, this one sucks. Let's grind it in a sausage and make a hot dog or whatever. So you toss it to the
Yeah,
side.
so like worst case scenario, you know what? This sucks, but there's a bright side to this.
But how do you butcher a pork chop?
I don't know. Oh, I cut it in the wrong place. I feel like only part of the meat that no one wants goes into the hot dog anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I could be wrong.
Well, it sounds like maybe Greg just has like two foods he's ever eaten and he prefers pork chops to hot dogs. So he's saying like, oh, all the times I couldn't have pork chops, I just have a hot dog.
I'd love to crack open the mini freezer that's inevitably somewhere in Greg's van. And
It's
see
got to
what's-
be, yeah.
It's all hot dogs and pork chops.
A couple of half-drank beer.
So in this search, after this discussion, I guess the motivating discussion about not all pork chops turn out perfectly. Steven does find
Just what every kid's mom tells them.
Steven does find the cannon. And
And it's rather obvious what it is.
yeah, it's just kind of there. And I kept thinking, like, what a ridiculously organized storage unit. I guess it fits Greg's personality, but it's horrible. When they pull the cannon out, the entire thing collapses on itself, or they pull like everything he owns out when they pull the cannon out. It's not easy. It's a big ordeal. And it's also a big ordeal to transport it because they need to bring it back to the gems to shoot this second son, red eye thing.
Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl, and Steven!
So they strap it onto the back of the van. It's a big process, a big to-do. And on the way, Steven's like, hey, Dad, I know that the second son might be about to kill us, but can we listen to one of those CDs? Can we listen to one of your songs?
Can we please?
And Greg's a little embarrassed. He's kind of like, you've heard it. I don't, I think his word Steven doesn't really like it. Like
doesn't want like his dad's old fuddy-duddy music.
Right, yeah. He's kind of like, you've already heard it. You probably.
Oh, now I'm about to get touched. This is a good scene.
It's a wonderful scene, and it does end the episode. We're about done with this one here. The last of it here is they do in fact get that light cannon, dragging it with the van.
Well, first they listen to the CD.
I know. We're gonna talk about that because I've got a whole note in here. In the process of them doing all this, we've got Greg's song that they're listening to in the van as the soundtrack.
Good way to do it.
I know I'm not that rich. I'm trying to get my start. So let me drive my van into your heart. Let me drive my van into your heart.
Do you guys mind if I just bury myself directly into your heart?
Yeah, just drive yourself, I guess, directly in here.
Whew, yeah, man, that's for some reason such a catchy song.
It's catchy, and then I'm sure you guys noticed that Steven knew the words to it.
And sang along.
So clearly he did like it, and there was this father-son bonding over creativity that I never got. And it was
this brought out some deep psychological
It was
issues.
A beautiful moment.
I love that scene, you're right. And also they did some weird animation style where it's kind of like pink overtones in this whole last part.
I wrote that down. I thought this
I'm glad you saw that too.
I thought this was wonderful. It's like a pink, red, and white palette.
I really like the way they did that throughout these episodes. Their use of color.
Yeah, the use of color in the art style. There's like this certain apocalyptic feel.
Right, I think
with
that's
the red
what they were
sun
going
over.
for. Right.
The red eye, rather.
Yeah, so this thing is going to save the day, but no one knows how to use it when they get it there. So it's actually getting worse despite the presence of the light cannon. Of course, Greg's wonderful song does eventually fade out, although that's a large part of the scene. Garnet says, we've got to do this now. It's time to do it now, but no one knows how it works since it was roses and here. So Pearl thinks, hey, we've got to activate Steven's belly gem. That's where his gemstone is located. It's on his stomach.
Is it really? Okay.
That's
For
roses.
Eating all those
That's that
bits.
star on
Yes,
his shirt
yeah,
or
that's
whatever.
his, That's his big round belly. That's where his gemstone is, and
He
Pearl
inherited
thinks,
it from Greg.
I wonder if Greg has his own gemstone. They say, it's got to have something to do with the gemstone because it's roses. So it doesn't work right away. Things continue to get worse. And finally, I'm not sure. I don't actually know why this is, but the trigger is that Steven's hanging on the cannon and says Greg's line. If every pork chop were perfect, we wouldn't need hot dogs. He says that. Steven says that, and for some reason, the cannon comes on and destroys the eye immediately. There's plenty of destruction on the way down, however. It does sort of destroy the town as it falls apart and pieces apart, all of them. And Greg's van floats away into the ocean as the episode ends.
Saddest part.
But it does work, and that's all we know for now.
Do you think that, okay, here's how I see it. It's supposed to be Rose's thing, so it needs some sort of rose or some piece of rose to do it. Steven has the gem or whatever, and it's that phrase that kickstarts the actual incident.
Maybe the phrase has actual physical significance.
What it did is just the part of Rose got real horny hearing that, and it activated Rose's thing, and it
okay, like maybe Rose has some like ethereal role in the whole thing,
and it just got super turned on from hearing Greg's phrase.
Corporeal
there it
role.
goes.
I wonder too. I feel like that may have been addressed, but I just don't have that information. So, and it's not important. That's what triggered it in this episode. So we move now. We're going to go to episode 25, Mirror Gem.
Fast forward.
This is a jump, and the rest of it is going to be a lot more connected than this. But what essentially happens between this episode and the one we're about to cover is we learn about the background that I'd already talked about in the forefront, which is the gems are largely, their duty is to go out and find the corrupted gems, bubble them up, and keep them away from society to protect the Earth. So we learn all that, but we don't do a whole lot else. It's world building at this point in the show. Not a lot happens. This episode we're going to talk about is actually considered sort of the unofficial end of season 1 because now we're learning what the actual threat is, the danger of what could be happening. So this is a transitionary episode, and that's why I picked this one. Because it's the rest of the stuff between this is all exposition. It's goofy, silly stuff. gems, bonding with Steven and understanding the town population, those people.
Learning all the tertiary characters. and
Yeah,
all
just
that.
kind of understanding Beach City and how it functions.
I bet they have a really good little side cast of characters too.
It's nice. Yeah, we'll talk about a few of them, but we don't have time to get into them. But it's basically just it's making it to where you care about them enough to where when it's threatened by the evil gems later,
Yeah.
you know what's at stake. So that's all it's doing is it's just setting the stage
And this
for that.
will be interesting because this next Steven Universe episode we're going to discuss actually bleeds into
Yes.
the one that will lead off our next episode.
which is a great like sort of cliffhanger
Yeah.
thing we're doing internally. We're doing an internal cliffhanger here. We will pick
it's
up
like a meta
at
cliffhanger.
the at the end of this episode. We will pick up right from that point when we come back later in the week.
And one thing I do want to point out or say at this point is that you can kind of see just from this first episode we just discussed to this one we're about to discuss, the quality of the show has improved.
Yes.
And I think by the fourth episode, which is by far my favorite, the last one we'll cover later on,
That's a great episode.
it's the show has kind of found its footing. It looks better. It sounds better. The first couple episodes, I was just, even though I loved a lot of the aspects of the first one with Greg and all that, I was just kind of like, whatever, it's fine, no big deal.
yeah, I was. I
But
felt
it
similarly.
grew on me as we got further into it, and they've established the world building. The look is better. The aesthetic is better. We get more songs. We get or songs from Biscuit or whatever her name is.
Garnet.
Garnet, yes.
The show knows what it is later more, and
Yeah.
it on to be fair, and we said kind of up front, maybe this isn't something like we're gonna go through
No.
and watch on our own. But this show has a lot more on its mind, sort of, than like a lot of similar shows.
I do think that Rebecca Sugar knew the entirety of the story from the beginning. How they applied it, who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah.
But I think she knew exactly what she wanted it to be because Steven's path and the Gem's path is slowly presented throughout the show in such a way that it's obvious that they knew exactly what they were saying the entire time.
I'll tell you how I feel about this show. I may never watch it again unless I catch it, but I will absolutely Wikipedia this plot.
So you
because
want
I
to know
wanna
what
find out.
happens, is
I
what
do.
you're saying.
Yeah,
It
and it's
caught me
also
in
one
that.
of those
actually
things. If someone
worried.
asked me about it now, I'd be like, like, hey, do you watch this? And be like, no, not really, but I've seen a couple and they're pretty good.
Yeah, exactly.
That sort of thing.
I'm actually part of the reason why I was so adamant, and you guys all agreed, which I'm glad about not discussing the end, is that I kind of don't want to know in case I do watch this.
Mm.
In case I do decide I want to see, I don't want to know how this thing goes because it's pretty in depth, and we've got the setup pieces. So don't tell me how it goes. Like I'll figure it out if I want
and like
to
if
myself.
I found out Greg died, I don't know how I would handle it.
Just punch a hole in the wall immediately.
Rose comes back and kills him. So this one is episode 25, Mirror Gem. The synopsis is Steven befriends a magical mirror that can mysteriously communicate with him.
All been there, man.
That's pretty much the entirety of the episode. But this one, it starts with, we actually meet Connie in this one. I know she's not in these very much, but I was telling you guys in the intro to the earlier we were talking about here, Connie's very important. That's his human friend. That's Steven's human friend. They have a huge bond, and she plays a big role in this. I think in the future episodes, they end up being, it's implied that they have kind of, as they get older, a
They have
romantic thing.
sex.
Mhm.
Gem sex.
They just
Do they?
fuck.
Do they
He
have
sticks
sex?
his belly button in her belly button. That's how sex works.
Ooh, that's hot.
You know, in a way, they're kind of like troll dolls with the gems on their bellies.
You would.
Well,
compare
they don't
the
all
two.
have it on their belly. It's in different spots.
That's true.
Steven's
Steven
is on
does.
his belly.
Maybe he
Pearl's
can put
is in her forehead.
Oh, okay. But you could put like a lab coat on Steven and he'd be like that doctor troll that I had as a child.
So in any case, it opens where we meet
Where
Connie.
did he get his medical license? That troll.
Well, I would assume the trolls have their own medical school because they have different maladies.
Okay.
More similar to like in Steven Universe, like a cracked gem.
Okay. Yeah.
So Connie can't come over because she's busy playing with her trolls. No, because she's busy with tennis practice and family dinner, and she's on summer vacation. So the good news is she can hang out tomorrow. She can't hang out today. Steven
She's
does-
snooty then, right? Tennis
Well, you know,
practice
she's
and
just-
family dinner.
Her dad is a doctor, I believe, so
Yeah,
they're
she's snooty.
upper class.
Like
But-
the troll doll.
Steven doesn't know what summer vacation is. He doesn't know what school is. He's lived with the Gems his entire life, so he doesn't know anything about this.
Yeah, he's probably rather uneducated.
Seems like they fucked up raising this poor
Yeah,
kid.
probably not socialized
He doesn't
well.
know what any of this is, but as the show kind of hints at, Steven's just endlessly enthusiastic about everything, so he wants to know about school. He's optimistic, he's cheerful, he's excited to see Connie tomorrow, and for now, he's going to say, hey, Pearl, let's do school. So Pearl loves teaching people, and she's got
Oh, yeah, Pearl gets really excited about
She's
the
got
idea.
some kind of weird complex. I love Pearl too. I agree with you, Van, but I don't know. She's a little bit...
Neurotic.
In this episode, we see some of her neurosis. So Pearl ejects a magic mirror from her forehead when she learns what Steven wants, which is just to learn. And it doesn't seem to be working, this mirror that came out of Pearl's
So the mirror is supposed
forehead.
to teach him about gym culture? Is that what she
I'm
was
not
saying?
really sure what the mirror was supposed to do. It just doesn't do anything.
From what I gathered, it can only repeat what it's heard.
That's what it learns to do. I don't think she thought that was going to happen.
I think she said that's what it was, but she implied that it already had this breadth of knowledge, but it doesn't.
And it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't do anything until it's alone with Steven in private.
Has Steven at this point already gone running around yelling about how school's over?
No.
Even though he's not in school?
This next scene is where we will talk about that. And Pearl assumes the mirror's broken, leaves it with Steven. That's the end of that scene. That's their failed school thing, which to Steven, as you said, indicates, hey, I did school and it's out now. I
Yeah.
get to have summer vacation too. I'm going to celebrate. He runs around Beach City. He's excited. He's on summer vacation. He actually runs into a couple other characters.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad that we're talking about these
who
characters.
work at a place called Big Donut. We don't get to talk about that in these episodes.
That's
but
what it was. Okay.
Big Donut, yeah. And Lars actually has donut ears if you look. Like his lobes are donuts. But there's a whole lot happening here where Lars is kind of a dick, and Sadie is his coworker who's with him. She's nice, clearly has a crush on Lars that I think comes up later in the show a little bit. But these are side characters that they do actually feature them quite a bit in the show, but they won't matter in our episodes.
Is Lars is the kid with the gauged ears?
Yes, the donut ears.
Who is constantly talking about waiting for the beach babes to come back?
I am glad you mentioned that. You're in luck. So this is where Steven says, hey, it's summer vacation. It's summer vacation. What are you guys going to do? Sadie's like, I don't have anything going on. Lars has something planned. Lars goes on this long diatribe that's creepy as fuck. I actually edited this so we can hear all the things he says because he gets interrupted in the middle of it, but I edited it so we can hear everything he does go into about all of what he's going to do in the summer.
All those out-of-town summer babes traveling away from home without their boyfriends, if you know what I mean. Maybe I'll get a few numbers. Maybe I'll even call one. Next time you see me, I'll be on the arm of a hot woman's.
You can stop talking about it now.
Lars is just like, I gotta get my dick wet.
Yeah, but we'll talk about it when we get to it, but this is not the only episode where he's like this.
He's a horny boy.
And Sadie shuts him down at the end there, which is why I had to include that part too, where she's like, okay, that's you, good enough. You've proven your point. You've said what you need to say.
We got it. You got a rock hard boner.
We get it. You're really cool.
And also, yeah, it's very clear he's not going to do any of that.
No.
Like he's just a teenage kid who
works at the donut tree.
Exactly.
Big Donut, which has been one of the big problems in our country for a long time, along with Big Pharma.
Same thing. So Steven walks away from this, and the mirror activates all of a sudden. This is where we first get the relationship between the mirror and Steven, because Mayor Dewey, the town's mayor, is about to run Steven over with his campaign van. His campaign
Lots
vehicle.
of vans in this show.
He's
I like that.
bullhorning Mayor Dewey as he drives this. He's about to run Steven over, and the mirror plays Lars telling him, I forget what he says, something about watch out. He's mean to him, like in that, but the mirror is just trying to be like, this is the only knowledge I have to give you, and you need to watch out. So Steven realizes he's about to be run over, and he learns the mirror is clearly communicating with him, but only because it can play incidents that they have interacted with directly. So that leads Steven to bond with it deeper. He actually stays up all night on the beach talking to it and giving it more moments to interact from. He's very excited about this development, learning that the mirror is alive, and says, I can't wait to introduce you to the gyms.
Why didn't that National Geographic quiz we took in the Patreon show have an option for talking to your mirror at the beach as one of your favorite things to do on an island?
So you bring your little handheld
hand
mirror.
Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who misses Taco Bell most of all?
Do you guys have one of those? Do you guys use that kind of mirror?
A talking mirror?
Yeah.
One that repeats things I said? Yeah.
Do you have one that you hold up?
No.
The closest thing I have is in my shower. I have a mirror because that's where I shave. And it's like sticks to the shower.
I go by feel on shaving in the shower. I just feel it.
I shave at the sink like a loser.
I can't do it. I cut myself too much. My skin's too perfect.
It clogs my drain, or else I would prefer the sink. But
That's fair.
also, you don't have to look at yourself if you shave in the shower as much. Like in the mirror, it's all coming back at you. You have to see it.
To disgust yourself, yes.
Well, sometimes, though, it just replays past memories and guides me.
Turns out there's a lady in it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, getting ahead of it.
Steven, despite the mirror's protests, does go back to the house that he shares with the Jims, where they're all kind of doing their own thing. He wants to tell them about the mirror. Pearl is in a state because in the process of setting up that classroom, she realizes like that it's not symmetrical, and now she can't reconcile symmetry with anything.
This is this endeared her to me because I
liked
would do this.
I liked this too.
So what did she like cut a teddy bear in half or something?
She impales it with a spear.
That was actually, I really like how the mirror is reluctant to meet the Gems, and when they walk in the door, Pearl is impaling a teddy bear.
Well, Amethyst is relaxed as she always is. Like, it's just Pearl that's freaking out, but the others are mostly fine. But Steven interrupts this scene, and he says, hey, look at this thing I found. It doesn't work at first. Once it does, though, once Steven does get a reaction, the Gems are terrified. Garnet wants the mirror back right away. And Steven says, no, I can't do this. This is my friend. And they have a little bit, like, he gets a little bit flustered and accidentally slaps Garnet's little goggles off. Are those goggles?
It's like a visor?
I don't know. Yeah, something like that. And that's where we learn. It could be in a previous episode, but we see how many eyes Garnet had, which is not the
more
normal,
than you would guess.
It's more than 2.
Not the normal 2. But yeah, we figure out Garnet has 3 eyes.
I think this is the first time this is revealed in the series because
Steven's
reaction.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. And it's probably true. I think that was why that scene was supposed to be such a big deal.
Still find myself, I'm digging Garnet, though.
I love Garnet, yeah.
I like the 3 eyes.
But, when she gets her...
more to look at me with.
Yeah.
When she gets her goggles, her visor knocked off, Steven's very flustered, he's upset. He runs away apologizing, but Garnet, she's acting like a parent here. She's mad, but she mostly just wants that boy to... get his shit together. She's going to ground him. She's going to find him.
Well, and he doesn't understand. I actually really like the juxtaposition here of they're like, oh, there's a mirror talking to you. This is turning into a horror movie.
Safe.
Give it back now. And Steven of being like, you don't understand. This mirror is my best friend.
Steven's like, oh, I'm wearing jeans and sandals.
Have you seen my belly button?
It's like a troll doctor's belly button.
So they all pursue Steven outside because they know how serious this is. They know, and we learn later ourselves how bad something like this can be. He doesn't know. But they're all pursuing him. Steven wants to help the mirror because he's made friends. So he's out there on the edge of the beach water asking the mirror, what can I do to help you? And it tells him, turn the mirror around, take the gem out from the back of it. So he does. The mirror destructs, and the first gem we see in the entire series, I believe, apart from our main character ones, appears, who is Lapis Lazuli.
Yeah, Lapis Lazuli.
Remus Lupin.
Which Van and I were talking just before you got here, Spencer, and I was insisting this just is a Harry Potter name.
Mm-hmm.
She was trapped inside this mirror the whole time, and she is so grateful that Steven let her out. And she's also confused, though. She's like, you're a gem, you're one of them, and you helped me? So we already understand here, we've got a gem who doesn't trust other gems. And this is new because, like I said, the rest of the series before this, the previous episodes were just setting up the world. You don't have any reason to believe the gems are anything other than protectors, and you don't know anything about the war that we went into and all that. So this is your first hint of, here's another gem and they don't trust the other gems. What's going on? So Steven's caught in the middle as the other gems catch up, and Lapis is very angry when they all do catch up to her, and she says, you guys all knew I was in here and you didn't do anything about it. So she is furious. She's kind of waging some sort of it's like a little war with the water where she's throwing it all over the place
she
and
can
rising.
use the water.
She's Poseidon.
Yeah, she is sort of a Poseidon or maybe a waterbender from the last Airbender.
Yeah.
She seems very, very powerful, right? At this point.
And her
Lapis
gem is
Lazuli.
like cracked, or is Steven fixed it?
No, that's the next one.
Okay.
So we get into that later, but she likes Steven. She trusts him because he helped her, and she says, don't trust them, come with me. And of course, Steven's conflicted. He's not going to leave the people who are essentially his parents. So he hesitates, and she's like, fine.
Sure.
Fine, you stay.
Of course he wants to be with Lapis Lazuli. But he's got to stay with his family because he's a little troll boy still.
So he can't quite go, and she says, okay, fine, I guess you just won't come with me, but I do need to leave. And she says, one last line, don't trust them, before she goes.
DTA, man.
And he actually has gotten a bit of a glimpse of that from his perspective when they try to take the mirror away.
Sure, yeah, he doesn't know why they did that.
No.
So we know that Lapis is powerful, and she says not to trust the other gems, and she goes. She disappears. Garnet grounds Steven as the episode ends, and we don't know who the actual good gems are at this point. And thankfully, the next episode picks up right from this point. So we immediately get to figure out a little more about this, but for now, it's a cliffhanger. We talked about it earlier, it's a meta cliffhanger inside of the Boob Tube Boys.
It's a Matryoshka doll.
Pretty impressive.
Did you guys have anything you want to talk about before we go into the next one later in the week?
I just wanted to add on what Van was saying earlier about the show clearly improving as it finds its footing, because this episode's already a pretty big jump in terms of what all it's trying to do.
Are you saying you were pretty much on the edge of your seat the entire time?
I just had to
The
scoot
entire
back a
10
little bit.
minutes?
Problem solved.
I always am because I'm blind, so that's it's hard to judge. Yeah, I really liked what they were kind of doing here in terms of having Steven torn between two different parties that he trusts, and also gems both. So it's kind of even more confusing for him.
It's a little bit.
There are issues at play he can't understand yet, and that obviously audience is in the same position. So pretty well done.
Yeah, it's intriguing. Like if you were for whatever reason watching that on your own, you'd probably be compelled to keep watching, I'm guessing, because of that plot line development, I'm thinking.
Yeah, you'd almost just be like, okay, well, at the very least, I need to see what happens with this.
Yeah.
But then they're going to lure you in later with even more.
Yeah, there's always something going on. Van, did you have any thoughts about these first couple?
The only thing I wanted to say is that Steven reminds me of this kid I went to high school with, and his name was Adam something. I don't remember his last name, and I probably shouldn't say it anyway. And he had that like curly black afro, and the only other thing that I remember about Adam is that he would say yallow instead of yellow, and I could only focus on that. Everything else was gone when I would try to get him to say the word yellow because he'd go, yallow? He was just a little yokel kid, and that's what he looks like.
Did he have any magical powers?
I don't know. He did have that gem in his belly. I'm assuming that led to other things, but other than that, again, these first two episodes, even this one was a little more like, okay, this is fine.
Yeah, I get it.
I was really pulled in on the final two. So
Yes,
that's
I agree.
definitely we'll listen
I
to this
agree,
show
and
later.
that's what I'm super excited about is when we come back later in the week. The reveal in the last one we do was fucking huge. It's amazing. And I can't wait. We talked about the fusion part, and that's where it comes in. So, because they casually drop in these fusion things where it's like Steven's kidding. Like there's one episode called Giant Woman where he wants to, I forget which two it is, but he's trying to get two of the gems to fuse together because he's never seen it. And he's like, do it for me, guys. I want to see you turn into a giant woman. And he starts singing about it. And it's just like everyone knows that gems can fuse. There's something we don't know that comes up in that last one that's really exciting.
Yeah,
So,
that's part of this cliffhanger. It seems a lot like Steven wants to fuse with both Connie and Lapis. And I wonder if that comes into play too, if you know what I mean.
Is his last name just Universe?
I think so, yeah, because Greg Universe
is Greg
Mr.
Universe,
Mr.
which
Universe.
it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's so much more to get into.
More Greg too.
There's a lot more Greg. I hope that we kind of covered the bases so we can just kind of go straight into the episodes. So there's more to talk about with the next episodes. You guys agree?
Agreed,
So,
yes.
yeah, we had to kind of cover the early part here, and that took a little bit of a runtime, but we will get straight into the synopsis, which takes place right after this one next time.
Whoa.
In the meantime, we do thank you guys for listening. There are so many ways you can find us, and we really appreciate you doing so. If you are driven to give us some kind of review, rate us online, you can find us on all of your podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Does anyone use that? I don't think so. But
Someone
if you do,
has,
if you
probably.
do, I think that's actually the third most popular one somehow. But find us on there, Boob Tube Boys. Give us a review.
Geo7, if you're using that one.
Any of
leave us a
them.
You and
review.
your GeoSat.
You
That's
don't
my
even
favorite.
You don't even need to have a normal podcast platform. We're on all of them. I'm pretty sure.
That's right.
I think we're just ubiquitous. in
How do you feel
podcast
about
world.
radio? Because I heart radio, and we're on iHeartRadio as well.
So find us on there. Give us a review. Tell your friends about it. We're also, if you want to be very generous, we have a Patreon account. You can find us on
Patreon.com/Bootu Inc. Bootu.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to find, so type in the URL if you can. As we get more views or whatever, it'll be more higher on the Google search.
right. So Patreon.com is the easy part, and then Bootu Inc. is the network that you run, and it's a great network. It's
Thank
a wonderful network. Bootu is not Boob Tube. I know it sounds similar, but it's a little different. You can find the link to it as well from boobtubeboys.com.
And can I
if
take a
that's
second
easier.
here?
Yes.
Because you've set up the website, and so
Yes.
far you've posted the stuff. Brian's been busy moving. I've been busy with everything. We're gonna have more stuff coming. We've had enough.
I've
had several
actually
posts.
also almost completely written a thing too,
Oh,
which
cool.
Right.
will be kind of not as timely for our episodes, but I'm still definitely
Sure.
posting.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I happened to finally. I was like, okay, I got to sit down. I got to get logged in, so it'll make this easier when I have time to do it. I was blown away. It looks great. So
Yeah.
good job, Spencer.
It's fun to read too.
Absolutely. I mean, we're all three very smart, good writers. And
Whoa, yeah.
Let's compliment ourselves here.
yeah.
Hold on.
Exactly. And hey, look, we're entertaining. So
Yeah,
go
we're
read
great.
our stuff. It's awesome.
Yes, yeah. If it's easier for you to find our content through boobtubeboys.com, by all means, go that route. We're also all on Twitter. I am at 3 French. That's the number 3 French _hen. You guys?
At Manly Van Lee.
Oh, I'm at Loud Guitar Brian.
We would really appreciate it if you reached out to us on social media. That's why we're there. We're there for you guys, and we would love to hear from you. We really enjoy doing this, but it's even more fun with an audience that enjoys it as much as we do.
When he becomes an adult, will it become Steve Universe?
I don't think so, because that epilogue season and the unofficial season 6 is still Steven Universe.
Okay.
Future. I think Steven Universe Future or something. I don't know.
Briefly,
It's,
he becomes a wrestler and he goes by Stevie Universe.
Oh.
There is an
okay.
awkward thing where the actual actor's voice changes in these and it sounds different.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's kind of weird.
Sometimes that kind of thing happens and it's alarming.
Yeah. I guess that's, when you're going to cast a prepubescent boy, it's only a matter of time if you want those years to continue.
Yeah, they got lucky on that Neville Longbottom on Harry Potter.
He got pretty hot too.
Yeah.
They
You
got
seen him as an
lucky on
adult?
that Nancy Cartwright with Bart. Her voice never changed.
What a good call.
Well, thank you guys for listening once again. We will be back later in the week, and it's going to be so fun. I'm really excited about it, and I hope you guys are too. And I guess that'll just have to leave it here. On behalf of all of us, I'm Spencer. Brian, can you play us out?
I know I'm not that tall. I know I'm not that smart. But let me drive my van into your heart. Let me drive my van into your heart. I know I'm not that rich. I'm trying to get my start. So let me drive my van into your heart. Let me drive my van into your heart. And if we look at a place, well, baby, that's okay. I'll drive us into outer space where we can hear what people say. I know I don't have a plan. I'm working on that part. At least I've got a van. So let me drive my van into your heart. 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 Let me drive my van into your heart.